want to talk to you just for a few minutes now about what to fix your eyes on in this time, what to focus on. Do you focus on the news? Do you focus on the changing situation? Do you focus on the bottom dropping out, or something else? And I wanted to do that. I just want to briefly go to part of the Old Testament it's in 1 Kings 17. It's in the histories. Israel's not, excuse me, Israel's not God's people. They're not doing well at all. They've gone after idols. One of the most wicked kings, Ahab, is on the throne. He married Jezebel. She's a Sidonian, and her father worshipped Baal, and she worships Baal, the storm god. And Israel's just gone. Israel's gone completely apostate. And not many are following God in the land. There's this one guy that springs up almost out of nowhere in the midst of this scene in 1 Kings chapter 17, verse 1. He gets no introduction. There's no genealogy. We know where he comes from. He comes from Gilead, which is the Transjordan, east of the Jordan River. We don't know anything else about him. And we don't know what tribe he's from. We can surmise based on where he's from, but as soon as I say that, yeah, that's right. I believe that's right. We don't know his family. He just pops up almost like from a hole in the ground. Like, think of a quote from Gimli in Lord of the Rings when he's laughing with someone about where dwarves and dwarf women came from. He just pops out of nowhere. And that alone, there's plenty on that. A.W. Pink wrote a book called Elijah that dives deeply into obviously Elijah and what King says about him, and he scratches around into a lot of that more than I will here. But the point is, he pops up and he just right away, no introduction, he confronts Ahab, this wicked king. And now we got to pause for a second. Ahab isn't the queen. He's not the Queen of England. He's not the president of the U.S. If we're in the West, we tend to think of rulers as the servants of the people. This guy was an ancient Near Eastern potentate, and he was used to having his way, and if he didn't get his way, and there are plenty of instances of this in Kings actually, he just straight try to kill you or have you killed. You didn't come up to kings and tell them off, but that's exactly, in a sense, what Elijah does. The first time we see him in 1 Kings 17, first verse of 1 Kings 17, he tells Ahab off. He stands in front of him and he says, "Except by my word, there won't be rain in this land for 3 years." Now pause for a second. No rain for 3 years, or just no rain. Except by my word, no rain. So he's saying, I'm going to shut the economy down. Now that strikes, what I want to say is that, first of all, that strikes us extra hard right now. If I'd given this video 3 months ago, nobody would have listened to it. Who cares? But our global economy, our economy in the U.S., in Texas, is at a standstill right now because people aren't working. Oil industry is just bottomed out and gone below bottom. Things are upside down, and if there were one guy that was responsible for that, and it turns out that, hey, the wickedness of Israel, Ahab himself are responsible, the rebellion of God's people, not Elijah, but Elijah's the one that says, yeah, I'm praying that it wouldn't rain. And what that means in an agricultural economy is the economy stops. So this guy, he's the one that we can trace the economy stopping back to, and Ahab's listening to this. And he has the gall to stand before Ahab and say, basically, you're wicked. I pray to God who listens to me that it wouldn't rain, and I'm going to stop the economy to get your attention and to get Israel's attention. And where does this boldness come from? Well, let me tell you, and this is the point of this video. What do we fix our eyes on? And if we read the verse carefully, we can understand where the boldness of Elijah comes from. He's not cowing before this Middle Eastern potentate. He's telling him something really hard, right to his face. And the fact is, he's not looking at Ahab. He's not looking at this king in front of him. He's not looking at this scary situation of a drought. He's looking at something else. And what is he looking at? Verse 1 tells us of 1 Kings 17. He says, God before whom I stand. Let me go ahead and read it. I can't remember the exact wording. I should have had it open. He says, "Now Elijah the Tishbite of Tishbe in Gilead said to Ahab, as the Lord, the God of Israel lives, before whom I stand, there shall be neither dew nor rain these years except by my word." So first of all, as the Lord lives, he knows that God is a living God. He's not just an idea. He's not just theologizing. He hasn't just been to seminary. He sees God as a living God, and he knows God's alive because of his word, but he also knows God's alive because he meets with him. He says, as the Lord lives before whom I stand. He's a jealous God. He's the God of Israel. He's a God of a people who's chosen and made a people for himself. He's alive, and Elijah keeps company with him. Elijah's gaze is fixed on God. That's Elijah's chief reality amidst the fears and the vicissitudes and the ups and downs of life, evil kings that are trying to kill you, droughts, rebellion, unfaithfulness of God's people, and on and on and on. COVID, economy dropping out, lose your job, health scare, on and on and on the list goes. What are you going to fix your eyes on? Elijah was bold and courageous for one reason, because he stood before the living God. That was what filled his vision frame. So consequently, everything else filtered down from that. He had a solid footing because he stood before the living God. And his vision was filled, and his heart was filled with the God who lives, the God of the universe, the God of Israel. And so when he stood before a man, Isaiah 2:22, what is man in whose nostrils, why do you fear man in whose nostrils is breath? Of what account is he? Not impressive. Not impressive. Impressive and fearful unless you've been looking at the living God. And that's exactly what Elijah gazes on. That's the company he keeps. And that's what I want to encourage you right now is read the news, but read it, don't watch it. Turn off the tube. Get a little bit every day and then close it down. Don't just keep yourself on a drip, on an open thread, and keep your Bible open. Keep conversation with the Lord open. Fixate on him, on how the word takes you to Jesus Christ. Walk and talk with him. Meditate on his word day and night. My next post will be about that and how important that is, especially during times like this, but always. So that's what 1 Kings 17 verse 1 I think has to teach us. Much more, I'm sure, but that's just one thing. Love you guys.